see clearly?
Okay.
Okay. Is that the light? Light. No, the light is just for one. Yeah. Now you can see, right? Because the fluorescent light is like reflecting the latte art.
Yeah.
Turn on.
I would say the light's worth leaving on. It does make the latte art bleach out, but everything else is really, really clean and visible. So I'm going to move to your front camera, Dennis, and why don't you take over?
All right, back again. What I did just now, it was just some wing heart. I call it wing heart. It's something more than beyond a solid pattern. It's a very basic of fine line latte art, I would say. Basically, it's just a wiggle for the base, and then I just stack two stacks of heart shape on top. Right. So, and I do transfer. Right. I steam with the small one. I transfer with the bigger one. All right. So the reason why is I prefer the steam in a smaller diameter or pitcher in compare of the steam with the bigger one. Bigger one, if you want steam, no problem. If you're happy with it, there's no problem. But then, for me, for my experience, if I steam with a bigger diameter, it will swirl lesser in compare of the smaller diameter. It's like I just want to pour out the milk first. So I can let you see. So there are two over here. One is smaller. This is 400 ml. This is 600 ml. So I prefer to steam this one because it has a smaller diameter. So that means during the swirl process, I get to swirl more, right? In compare to steam with this one, which is bigger. And swirl less. Swirl less means it will have much more bubble, and you will have less smoother, less silky, glossy texture milk, right? So the reason why I don't pour with this one, yes, I still can pour with this one, but I prefer with this one. Simple, because this bunch, then the milk start to drop out. Okay, and with this one, the same amount I pour in, I can go very low. I can tilt very low, and I can start as early as, for example, like 20% cup fill. So that's the reason I use this one. I use the bigger one to pour, and also it has a bigger spouts, fatter spouts in compare to the smaller one. Of course, if let's say given the same model, we have much more narrow. Bigger spouts will pour a fatter line, and greater contrast. That's the whole idea of it, right? So if you're happy with the small one, go ahead. If you're happy with the small one like this, go ahead. It's fine. But then there's no harm of give it a try on a bigger pitcher. Right? No harm of give it a try on a bigger pitcher. No harm. So it's okay.
You just muted yourself, Dennis.
But with this one, the bigger one, it works fine immediately. Yeah. So commercially, it doesn't make sense because let's say you have 10 orders or 20 orders pending for your pouring, for your making coffee. It doesn't make sense. But then, let's say you're at home. Let's say you have less customers. Let's say you're making like 10 cups of coffee per hour. No problem trying to transfer. No problem to do transfer, right? But then let's say you have 50 cups per hour or 80 cups per hour, then it doesn't make sense. You can use this and make 2 cups of coffee at one time, right? So for this, if you have a lot of orders to make per order, it doesn't make sense at all. So you can use this to make 2 cups of coffee at a time. Yeah. So you can split, or you choose not to split. It's up to you. The milk to make coffee, to make latte art.
So Dennis, there's a question about making a cortado and
John.
Yep.
Are you still with me?
Yeah. Can you hear me? I hope so. There's a question about making a cortado and how much milk you'd use, and if that works in a normal jug.
Cortado, now, to my understanding, cortado is below 5 to 4 ounces of the glass or cup. So for cortado, I believe it needs like at least 100 ml of milk. You can use this. Dyson has a very good picture with the capacity indicator, right? So 100 ml, I think, is more than enough. That is for cortado. But then there are cafes that serve cortado in 4 ounce. There are cafes that serve cortado in 3.5 ounce. There's no wrong or right. There's even some cafes they don't serve cortado. They serve what they call piccolo latte. And there are cafes that serve gibraltar. Basically, the same thing to me. Gibraltar defined as the glass, cortado and piccolo latte. There's really different. There's not much of difference, I would say. It's a small, tiny cup with 4 ounce or 5 ounce.
All I'd say on that is if you were going to steam, let's say 60 to 100 mils, that you probably, if you have a decent, should lower the flow rate down to like 0.7 mils per second, 0.8 mils per second, so that you have a really dry and less powerful steam. Because otherwise, you're probably going to get coarse bubbles. So you do need to bring the steam power down if you're steaming very little milk.
Okay. It works the same to me. Yeah, so you can just lower down the flow rate of the steam. So it works the same to me. So do you think thermometer position affect the foam? I don't think that thermometer will affect the foam. I tried that so many times with really decent thermometer or not decent thermometer. It works fine to me. The question is throwing in.
So Dennis, why don't I read them to you, so you don't have to worry about it.
Yes. For that, you have to, let's say, now, I want to cover a little bit of different foam for different latte art. So we have flat white foam. We have cafe latte foam right in the middle. We have a cappuccino foam, the rule of third. That means 33% of the cup is supposed to be foam. Then approximately around 16% supposed to be cafe latte. And then supposedly 10% to 8% supposed to be flat white or less. So each of these is meant for different latte art. Now, the thicker it is foam, it's much more stagnant. It's harder to generate lines. It's hard to get contrast. So let's say cappuccino foam, it's meant for a solid latte art pattern. Okay, so let's say thin flat white foam is meant for ripples It's meant for lines. It's meant for much more. If you want to, if you interested, if you adore lines, then you should get a flat white foam, perhaps. Now let's say the most versatile, it will be latte foam. It's right in between. So you can generate lines and you can generate solid pattern material. Now, pro and cons. For cappuccino foam, you still can do some lines, but it's very low contrast, right? So, and for thin flat white foam, you have a high risk of too runny foam. That is very easy to make the shape out of shape, the latte pattern out of shape. I was talking about the risk of making a flat white foam and trying to make a ripples, trying to make lines for the latte art. So you have a very high risk of steaming a very thin foam, which leads to runny foam, and that is very easy and very high risk of ruining the latte art pattern. So yes, you can make a ripple with thin foam, but then if you do not know how to control the flow, you do not know how to control the pouring, you might have a very high risk of ruining the latte art pattern. That's my advice. Yeah. So do we have?
I can tell you some of the questions. They're coming quickly.
Okay.
So, how do you tell if the milk is ready if you're not using a thermometer?
Okay. Me myself, I train with a thermometer at the beginning. So it's very simple. Now, this is a very special feature, and this is a very special thermometer, right? I train with a very generic thermometer, which is huge, big, and very blocking. So it doesn't have anything like this. It has, but then it doesn't fit, right? So I train myself because I do not like to use the thermometer during the beginning because there's no time in a commercial scenario. There's no time. For example, let's say if you really want to train yourself by using your palm to as a thermometer, it's very simple. First, you have to try and error, steam the milk as you think it's 55 to 60 degrees Celsius, as you think. So after when you're done, immediately you poke in the thermometer and then you try to see whether it's 55, 60. If it's not, you can't do it again. You have to drink this and moving on the next stage, the next milk, you have to take a wild guess. You have to with a steam or hotter milk, yeah. So that means steam the milk, put down, poke in the thermometer, and then to see whether it's 55, 60. If it's not, then perhaps you have to steam longer next time. If yes, or if it is too hot, then perhaps you have to turn off the steam a bit earlier. Simple as that. Do we have the next question, John?
Hi there. I just grabbed the thermometer because Dennis still has the clip on his, and the way these are supposed to work is there's a hole here. I hate those clips because the problem with those clips is you put it here, and as you pour, it does this, and it falls into your cup. So you have to stick your finger on it. So the way these are made is there's a hole, and you tap, and then it just locks in, and then you pull it out. And while you're pouring there, so to use the Dennis technique here, you go in like there, and instead of going toward this way, you go that way. Okay, and so straight in and then quarter in to like that. That's the Dennis technique, and not just Dennis. Lance Hedricks, who's the twice latte art champion, does YouTube videos. He does exactly the same technique. I'm a convert. It does work really well. So I haven't seen any problem. Just like that, an angle there. Works fine. In terms of sensing temperature, your hand is going to register no temperature above 50 Celsius. That's when it hurts. So the way you hit 55 or 60 Celsius, which is generally where people steam milk, is they put their hand here, and as it hurts, they take it off, and then they count a few seconds and stop. That's the standard barista technique. Dennis has a slightly different one. Instead of putting his hand here, he puts his hand up here, which takes a few seconds for the heat to travel here, and when it hurts here, then he's at 55 Celsius. Is that fair, Dennis? Might have lost the host. For what it's worth, this one here this is just a prototype, but I've got it bigger because I'm working with a Bluetooth thermometer called Meter and putting in there and trying to have the decent espresso steam stop automatically when the heat and the temperature is reached. We're not quite there yet with the programming. It's tricky to have a scale, a D1, and a Bluetooth thermometer all on the same tablet. Bluetooth kind of is complaining. But hopefully
John, I tried both ways. I tried to place the tip over here. It works as well.
Oh, do you? Okay.
I tried to place the tip over here. It works as well.
Okay.
So I tried both ways, and it works. It doesn't really matter, actually.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just take that spring off.
Do we have next question?
It doesn't work.
Can you speak on the barista and show?
Yes, Oatly, alternative milk. A lot of people ask me, how do I steam alternative milk? It works the same to me. It works the same, exactly the same. But the only down you can't pour a very complex, or it's very difficult to pour lines. It's very difficult to pour some complex latte art, although some they can. But it depends on what kind of alternative brand, alternative non-dairy milk brand that you're choosing. Oatly, for instance, so far, it works for me. I tried a few brands, it doesn't work. One tip for you all, that anything alternative, non-dairy milks without the word barista version, I tried some without the barista version stated on the packaging. It doesn't work. It's like, it's meant for drinking chill or room temperature. It's not meant for steam. So I tried some soy milk, oat milk, some other brands as well. Stated there, barista version, it works, and most of the time it works for me. So, but then you can't really expect it works the same as a dairy milk. Can't expect that. It is totally different. It will not have the smooth texture as in
looks like we might have lost Dennis temporarily.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was talking about, so in summary, you have to choose the non-dairy milk with the barista version stated on the packaging. And let's say if not, so you can try some. Based on my experience, I tried some other brands, soy milk, oat milk, almond milk. Doesn't work for me. Can't. It's meant for like, I tried to steam, I tried to make froth, I tried to make some foam. It seems like I can't make latte on it. It looks like it's meant for consume in chill, not for steam, not for hot or whatever. It's not meant for frothing. So If you really like latte art with a non-dairy, first of all, choose the barista version or whatever brand. It works for me.
So more specifically, because I've done a bunch of research on this when I was in the US, nut milks that are pure, in other words, there's just nut in them, do not work well. They'll tend to split at higher temperatures, and so that's no good. And in general, the purer the milk, in other words, the less ingredients, the less good it is at latte art. In order to make good latte art non-dairy milk, there's usually some sort of thickener, and it's usually a bean thickener, like guar gum or something like that. And then it works great. So essentially, the non-dairy milk has to be engineered with a foaming agent in order to be acceptable at making latte art. So look at the ingredients, and if there's a ton of ingredients, sadly enough, it probably works better at latte art. So Soar, you're asking about the meter. Right now, I don't think the meter support is production ready, but once it is, I'll find it. I've got it in the drawer here. Yeah, I'll publish a little drawing about the size, the diameter of the hole, and you just tap the meter in, and it works just like a normal thermometer. I'm really happy with that, and we're gonna try and make it so you can do ghost steaming, hands-free steaming, with a Bluetooth thermometer. So you just put it in there, tap, and then it stops at the right point, which would be really cool. Those of you who use the auto stop on the Decent, you know also it keeps puffing to keep the foam moving. So if you don't use the foam right away, it's still stirring it slowly. So that's what's going on there. Let me go. Dennis is demonstrating. Let me get off.
I'll turn down the light so you guys can see the reflection is very strong on this. Yeah.
What milk was that, Dennis?
Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of milk was that, Dennis?
So that's Oatly barista version. So I tried on Oatly non-barista version, the original version, the flavored, the organic original doesn't work. It's not meant for latte art. It's not meant for frothing. It's meant for drinking chill and room temperature. With iced beverage, iced coffee, it works. It's okay. But then for milk frothing, I don't think it's designed for that. So that's why they have a very popular version is barista. Always sold out in the supermarket. Always sold out from the supplier. Yeah, that's the one. That's Oatly. Yeah. Purposely brought that. I know someone will ask me to demonstrate on alternative milk. It works as well. I'm just doing the exact same way that I'm frothing with a dairy milk, fresh milk, same way.
There's a good question here we haven't seen before from Ziwei Long, which is he tends to make more milk and more foam than he needs for the latte art. So there's a little bit of waste. Is that normal, or is there a way around the wastage?
Yes, it's normal as long as you do not leave too much of wastage. And for me, I don't really like to have the milk just nice and finish up. I posted a video in Instagram. It's about common mistakes of milk steaming, right? So there's one of the mistakes is you just pour in just nicely, the milk just just enough, just sufficient for your cup of coffee. But then by the end of the pouring, till the end, so the last part, when you lift up, when you try to lift up and cut through, that's the part that only the foam dripping down, and it will ruin your latte art. But then the taste, nothing wrong with the taste, but then it's just the whole latte art is spoiled by the last part. So how many seconds did I incorporate air? So this, should I just tell them it's XXL, John?
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm using XXL with 3 pinholes. I was doing like 5 to 7 seconds of aeration. I was doing 5 to 7 seconds of chirping. Not sure whether I'm correct or not, but that's that's my way of doing for a latte foam. So it's right in between 5 to 7 seconds, sometimes 8 seconds. It depends on what kind of steam tip you're using. So, yeah.
Just to add to the answer that you just gave about having too much foam, I find that if you steam and then it sits for 10 seconds, you're going to start to get separation. And ever since I switched to steaming in a small jug and then pouring into a big one and then pouring the art, I don't have the thick foam problem on the bottom anymore. I think that when you do that, you're instantly homogenizing the foam, and then if you pour right away, it's great. Would you agree with that, Dennis?
Yeah, totally. So now, if you ever notice my videos, most of them I would knock and swirl, even though I transfer, right? I would knock and swirl. That's my habit. Even though I do not transfer, I will knock and swirl, knock on the counter table, knock on the counter tabletop, and before I pour the latte art. The tip over here, you have to, right after you steam, done steaming, you have to pour latte art immediately, ASAP. ASAP, you do not wait, you do not try and do other stuff. So the very last part of making coffee with the latte art is you have to pour the latte art right after you steam, ASAP, like almost immediately. So you do not wait, you do not do anything else. Right after steam, you just grab the pitcher. You have to knock. If let's say there's bubble, you have to knock. If let's say there's no, you just need to swirl. So knock, and then a few times knock off the bubbles on top, and then you have to swirl to make sure the milk and the foam is mixed up evenly. So, like I mentioned, every millisecond counts right after you steam. Every millisecond counts. So the moment you wait, now here's the difference. 2 seconds late and 2 seconds earlier, the whole pouring experience is different. Like you can see, the milk texture is not as smooth. Let's say you have 2 second delay or 3 second delay. In compare, you pour immediately. So I don't have the habit of letting the milk sit on the counter and do the rest, and then come back with pouring. So it will not work that way. So you have to pour immediately right after you steam. So that's my advice. Yeah.
Can you
so
bring
again,
out your crazy jugs?
You transfer, that will. Sorry?
Can you bring out your crazy jugs? Because in the last call, you showed the different sizes, and you had the trash can, and I thought that was super interesting.
Oh, yeah. Do you mean this?
Yeah.
Okay, let me try to show them the sizes. Small one. This is not mistaken, is 350. 400. I have 600, right? So this is the Starbucks style 1 liter. By far, this can pour something that I can't pour with this one, the others. Now let me explain. See this? This is a very sharp tip, or you call it spout. A very sharp one. It's triangular. This is a little bit broader, which is the regular one. Okay? And this is the broad one. All right? And there's another one is ultra broad, which is a trash can or a rubbish can, yeah? Starbucks style barista feature. Yes, yeah. Starbucks, they are using 1.5 liter. This is the little brother. It's only 1 liter. There's another one, it's 0.5 liter, half liter, but it doesn't work the way I want. This is just nice for me. So, let's talk about the ultra sharp. Decent, ultra sharp, love it, very light, good to hold. It's meant for complex art. Some classic works fine for me. And it's meant for pouring out a very thin line and easily controlled for complex. Let's say you want to pour a unicorn, you want to pour seahorse. This is the way to go. This is the picture to go. Triangular sharp. Okay? But let's say if you want to pour a fine line that wraps up the whole cup, right? You want the wing wraps up. It's a little bit difficult to pour with this one. It's meant for the purpose of doing complex art. It's meant for the purpose of doing some classic wing art, a Rosetta. It works, no problem. Now, if you pour with this one, and if you want to pour a solid latte art, you try to generate a wrap-up effect. You can, but it's difficult. You need to pour very fast. The flow, you have to pour very fast, yeah? But then, the regular. This is meant for flying lines. If you want to pour complex, unicorn, if you want to pour a seahorse, I tried before, it doesn't work. Because every single time, I try to wiggle, try to mix some multiple rosettas, always very big rosettas coming out and ruin the whole cup of latte art. Right? Because it's thick, it's because it's broad, it's a little bit broader, and it's meant for pouring a very thick line in compare with the ultra sharp. Okay? So this is regular. Now I have a broader one. Regular, broad. If I want to make a wrap up tulip, a wrap up slow zeta, this I can do this effortless. It's very hard for me to pour with this one without the wrap up effect. It's very hard because I always wrap up. Okay, so this, if you want to make, of course, if you want to make a complex latte art with the broader tip spouts, can't do it because it comes out very thick and fast flow, hard to control. Now this one, which is the garbage can Starbucks, right? This, okay, let me, I'm not sure whether I have so much of shots and the milk to do so. Yeah, later. Now for this, I'm able to pour a Rosetta, very thick line. The whole Rosetta is roundish. Whole Rosetta got roundish, which I can't pour with this. Can I pour with this one, of course? Yeah, I can't pour with this as well. Then with this one, effortless. Of course, you need more practices. You need to get used to this awkward situation of the whole, when you pour out, the whole milks are like swinging like a pendulum. So it's very weird, but then once you get the hang of it, you get the effect that you want. So I believe that with different spouts or tips, it's meant for different purpose.
Hey Dennis, since you brought the bucket out, and I've seen some baristas who have milk jugs that have no spout; it's just rounded. So this week, what I've been doing is, and I also seen them without handles. So what I've been trying is actually I've just been pouring like this out here, and I get this great round wrapping style by doing that, and I was surprised it totally works.
It works on that, but then I tried it before. You need to have a lot of try and error. Now, the reason why it has a little bit of bending over here, just a little bit, so that it's easier to control. Whereas over here, you can just use the sideway, but then it's way harder to control in compare of the trash can, right?
Yeah, I can see it's hard to center the art if you don't have a guide.
Yeah. I can demonstrate one. Which one would you prefer to see?
I think people actually want to see you do some
regular
fine lines and a wraparound. I think just one of each. Is that okay?
The visit card? Okay. Let me try on a Rosetta. Yeah. So I prefer, if let's say classic Rosetta, I would prefer to use this one, or I can use this one, the sharp one. So let's use this one. Okay, let me pull a shot right now. So any question, drop at the chat box because I'm about to mute because the grinder is very loud, right? So let me mute and make a shot first.
Hey Brian, if you're having trouble with the tulip, what kind of jug are you using? Does it have a fine print, a fine tip, or a wide one? Okay, I would have thought it would be easier. I don't know if you're over thickening it, because generally fine line tulips are kind of what I accidentally get when I'm doing that. Yeah, Alan, I've seen a bunch of milk jugs that don't have handles at all, and that's kind of interesting. Sorry, Brian, I got confused between tulips and rosettas. Sorry, rosettas are good for a fine tip. For a tulip, a fine tip doesn't really work that well unless, so I've been able to make tulips well only recently by steaming in the small one and then pouring in the large one. I'm not able to get tulips if I pour from the big jug. I pour from the small one rather. I can make rosettas from the small one, tulips from the big one. We'll have to ask about the French press. I suspect not. So Dennis is making some. I think the problem, Cindy, with the French press is that it generally makes quite thick foam that's like cappuccino. So when I've not had an espresso machine around and I've tried it, I can just get a kind of glob with a heart. I can't pour anything. It's just far too thick. The French press basically doesn't mix the foam in the milk. It creates a kind of beer head of foam.
Hi, my name is Reese. Let me take over here. It's okay, it's okay.
So notice how he's got this great swirl, and the air incorporation is very controlled in how he's doing it, and the swirl is not bouncing up and down. Okay, and he goes instantly from steaming to pouring into a larger jug. Okay, and you see he's pouring it right into the side so it doesn't create any big bubbles. There's one big one there. Keeping the milk constantly moving so it's still incorporated. He's also mixing all the dark spots so he has an even canvas.
The shot is very bad. Oh, can't see the light on. Okay. All right, cool.
Anyway, I've heard good things about the nanofoamer as well. It's true, it might work.
So what I did, it was classic Rosetta. Now, I taught many students. Through my experience, there are many students just want to learn Rosetta, which they can't even pour a shot, they can't even steam a milk. There are many things that you don't know. And the end point, they just want to pour Rosetta. I think that mindset is not so appropriate to me. And because latte art is not just latte art, you have to know how to make the shot. So the shot makes the difference. Now, let's say if you pour a very watery shot, so the coffee tastes bad and also very hard to make lines. So, for example, lines, right, you have to make the shot very concentrated and thick. And usually, if you make lines, a barista would choose to go for ristretto or a shorter shot. For instance, like rule ratio is 1 to 1.5 or below. So just now, what I did was training beans is very watery, so that's why you can't really see a good contrast of the Rosetta. But you can see all the videos in my IG, in my Instagram. So the correct mindset, in my opinion, it should be you have to master the solid pattern. First of all, it's heart shape. Second of all, it's 3-stack tulip. Then we have to go for lines. For example, wing heart, where I demonstrate in the beginning, just the wing and then 2 stacks on top. There's wing heart. Then only go for Rosetta. So that's the correct mindset. So I'm not sure where you at right now. Just now, probably you're visible shot size. So for me, let's say I want to pour a very nice Rosetta. The coffee is just simple. I would use 20 grams in, probably 25 out. Depends on what kind of coffee beans you're using. I usually use medium roast for ristretto. So it's that's the way it is. So that's why if you're a latte art fan, You go to Instagram, you search for latte art, hashtag latte art. Most of the barista, they are using ristretto, high dosage and very short shots. And for that case, for that shot, they can make a very nice lines and some crazy latte art with that. So let's say you want to do rule ratio 1 to 2, it's a little bit different. You can do some simple stacking. You can do some simple latte art, but then for Rosetta, for fine line latte art, I think it's a little bit difficult to pull.
Is that
in my
because
opinion.
you want the coffee to be very concentrated, high TDS? Is that what you're trying to do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Very concentrated and syrupy. That's good for latte art, but then it's very boring taste to me, in my opinion. That's why I pull a longer shot. I usually do, let's say, it depends on what kind of coffee bean you're using. I will do 20 in or 19 in, and then 20 in for probably 30 out, 27 out. Yeah, depends on what kind of beans. So I try some beans are not suitable. Let's say I pull a longer shot, it's not suitable. It's very dry and it's very bitter. So when I pull a shorter shot, let's say 20 in, 20 out, just nice to drink and good for latte art as well. So it depends what kind of coffee beans you're using. So my variation is always changed, depends on what kind of coffee beans are. So for milk coffee, for latte art, I would suggest 20 in high dosage and then 1-to-1 ratio. Okay.
There was a comment, someone who's having trouble doing big hearts and then drawing the tail. Do you have any tips on that?
Oh, that's simple. So are you using the big picture or small picture? That's my main question. So big or small?
Small picture.
Small picture. So usually there's one problem with small picture because it's a small tip, small spout in compare to the big one. So what you need to do, you need to go down. Now here's the 4 steps, right? So mixing, you're gonna mix up the latte, mix up the coffee with the milk, then you go down, blending. Blending is the part that your tip has to touch the coffee. Now, the reason why the heart shape is very small is because you're scared. You have phobia of overfill, spillage, or whatever. So you're scared. You're pouring too slow. You're pouring way too slow to generate the shape. So when you pour too slow, what happens is it has not enough strength to generate a big heart, to expand, always more heart, always tiny little heart. So for my suggestion, you need to touch down the coffee, the tip, touch the coffee, and pour fast. Pour fast, the flow has to be fast. And then you have to lift up, keep on pouring, and then cut through. Lift up around 5 cm above the surface of coffee, and then cut through. Cut through is the part that you generate the tail of the coffee. So the reason why you always pour a small heart because you pour too slow, always too slow, right? But especially for newbies, they're always scared to overspill, they're always scared to spill, they're scared to pour fast. So don't be scared. So just pour faster and be sure you synchronize. When you pour fast, you have to untilt fast. When you pour slow, you have to untilt slowly. Okay? I hope that I answer your question.
Do you see a difference in how long you stretch the milk, incorporate air in the milk between Oatly and normal milk?
It makes no difference, actually. To me, it makes no difference. I work exactly the same. Now, that's for Oatly brand. It's exactly the same. Some other brands, I'm not so sure. Some other brands require much more aeration, much more chirps. For Oatly, it's very similar with the dairy milk. So it's very similar with fresh milk. So it's fine. It's okay if, let's say, you don't get enough aeration the next round. So you just need more. So that's how I learned. There's always next time, don't worry. There's always next time.
I think people also want to see a fancy thing, you know, some dragon or unicorn or I don't know what, Santa Claus bringing presents.
I'm not really good at pouring complex latte art,
Okay.
but I can do what I can do triple rosetta.
Okay.
Yeah. So I try to demonstrate with decent pitches. The big one, ultra sharp, there's meant for it. So let me try and do one shot. Not sure whether I have a good hand or not right now. It's a little bit late right now. It's 5 p.m. Not so active right now. 6 something right now. So let me try. I'm still not pouring very consistent latte art, to be honest. Latte art is very interesting. When you stop, it sleeps. Today, let's say I'm very into a rosetta. The whole month I just pour rosetta. I'm very excited. I get new pitcher. Every day I pour rosetta, 2 cups a day. Now, with that, my other patterns slips away. Now let's say next month I'm done with rosetta. I'm going to try back with slow rosetta, or I'm going to try back with ring hard, or I'm going to try back with triple rosetta. They slip away. I need more warm up. I need more practice. I need to make more coffee. So at least 1 cup or 2 cups a day to get the pattern back. So I always believe that latte art is very similar with learning musical instruments and guitar or piano. Once you stop practicing that song slips away. Same goes to latte art. Once you stop practicing that pattern slips away. Okay, so there's not really for me, in my opinion, there's not really a consistent pattern. I still, in some pattern, I'm still struggling. Of course, some basics I'm very comfortable to share and comfortable to pull. But then there are some other patterns I used to pull. I lost it right now. Right? So that's the way it is. You can't really I don't really have a favorite profile for latte art, but latte art, I think it goes well with defaults. It depends what kind of beans you use. So it goes well with default, nothing fancy about that. So even profile, flow profile for milk drinks, that works fine for me. So there's no particular profile for now. So default always works fine.
I would say if you wanted to pull something longer, but you want to get a really thick shot, it's less the profile and more grinding a little bit finer. So you get a slower shot that's really, really thick.
Okay, let me pull a shot. I'll be back and try to demonstrate with triple rosetta. Okay.
Camera's not on yet. Thanks. Yeah, I wouldn't stress too much about what profile for latte art, except that I wouldn't usually make latte art with a light roast because those are usually much more watery. You want, those are pulled much longer. And also, it's a shame to milk a light roast. The Londinium profile works really well to make a thick shot. Hey, those of you who want a decent, if you go to decentespresso.com/guide, about a half hour ago, I just published Dennis's book, and it goes into really good detail about a lesson plan for learning latte art. So I will post the URL here.
There you go. This the sugar rosetta. Steam them. This no. Yeah. Yeah, I'm back. If you notice, right, just now my holding style is different. Comparing with pouring some classic patterns. So my style was I hold it like this, right? Now, where I hold the normal one with a classic pattern, I hold it this way. This way. And let me try to figure out. Yeah, to you. So if I took away my picture this way, I was holding like this transparently. Okay? Now, just now, I was holding it this way. This way. Basically, this part, the whole part is attached to the picture. Yeah. Now, I figure out the reason why I pour this way to pour some complex pattern. It's much more easier for me to wiggle and control the flow this way. But then, if let's say I want to pour some classic, this one, it seems like it's blocking me to pour faster flow in compare to pour this one. So by holding this way, I'm able to pour faster, right? And much more less control. If I hold this way, I can control easily on the flow. Yeah. So I try a lot of times to pour complex with this way. It's very difficult and always wiggle too wide, and it's very hard for me to control. in compare this way, I can wiggle a little bit, gesture much more minimal, much more easier for me to control. So that's why I hold this way for the complex, and I hold this way for the classics. It's very consistent. Always do this. I don't try on any other any other way of holding style. So I always do this. So there you go, the tip for you. Do we have more questions, John? Are they throwing in more questions?
I think my brain is full, but maybe other people still have space in their brain. We can also move to people. I don't know if anyone wants to try steaming, and we'll take a look. And if you've got any problems, we can then see if we've got any suggestions. I'm going to take my laptop over and give it a try.
Mm-hmm.
And even those who don't have decent espresso machines, you're welcome to give it a try. It's fine.
Once I try, I can't go back anymore, John.
That's what I want to hear.
Can't go back anymore. That's the factory of Eastern.
Yes.
Yeah, very lot of stuff over there.
Here I am.
The stuff over there.
Chassis. Here are heaters. They're all prepared. There's 4 machines that we're building. That's the new model coming out in October. The main difference is these here slide out. I can't really do it with one hand. But there's no more screw there. Otherwise, there's no difference with the new model. All right, and I'm gonna, someone's moved my stand. Anyone else setting up to do some milk steaming? Because I'm gonna need to make an espresso, which is, I don't know, not that exciting in a latte class. I'm gonna just tap that, warm it up.
Okay, I received a question whether I believe it's the angle of the steam one. Do I put it up all the way, or do I have a certain angle? To answer that question, I don't really bother to pull out the hole or whatever. I always remember that the steam tip should be pointing at the center by leaning at the tip, over here, leaning over here, and pointing at the center. Trying to anchor it correctly. And then I rotate I rotate the pitcher on the sideway. So in that way, it will generate a whirlpool, a vortex. Simple as that. So I'm not sure that I answered the question. Hope you understand.
Sorry, I just realized I'm pinned, and you guys are seeing my experiments with camera placement. So take it away, Dennis.
Well, what do you have over there? What's your setting for the steam tip or steam one?
I think this is probably 1.2.
Is that a single hole or is that 3-pin holes?
This, I believe, is a 3-pin on an XL, which is not really optimal, because the normal XL doesn't. I mean, some people like it. It's going to be wetter and less violent if you use a 3-pin on these. The 3-pin, the 3 holes is really for the double XL because there's so much more power. What I have this set to, yeah, it's set quite fast, 1.7 mils per second. So that's going to give us more power, but it's also going to be more wet, so more dilution. And this one over here has got 1 hole, which is kind of more appropriate. I am going to do that. If you guys have any questions about making espresso, I can answer that. But basically, my recipe here that I'm doing, using this new best practices profile that I'm working on, and it's 16.5 in and about 36 out. So I tend to pull my shots with a medium light roast to about 2.3 times ratio. It's obviously not going to give as much contrast as a ristretto, but I'm making latte art to drink because it's fun, but I'm still making a coffee. It's mostly about drinking.
Everyone can make latte art. I'm not born with this skill. I'm just trying. I'm just putting more effort than the regular person. By the way, I was doing this as part-time as well, training and part-time baristas. So everyone can do this. So don't worry. If you can't do it today, put more effort, put more patience. You will make it next time.
I think someone was starting to
What
talk.
are you drinking? What are you drinking, John?
This is fine. So fine print. So it's the twice Australian national barista champion. He married a Hong Kong girl and moved here. So we've got Australian style. Okay. Let's see if you can see the beans. These are medium light. So
okay.
Okay. I get made.
Is that a blend?
It's who knows what it is. It's right. It's not a single origin. It's the house espresso.
Cool. Let's see what you have.
Yeah. That's probably.
I'll handle the question right now. In the meantime. Yes, it's really based on the hearing and your experience toward the frothing. So I got a question that saying that do we have a guideline to prevent over frothing the milk? So no, we do not have. It's very hard to explain the sound of the chirping because there are unlimited variants of chirping sound. There's a very thin, there's a very heavy. So each of them produce different thickness of foam. So for instance, let's say if you place the steam tip, my suggestion is 1.5 cm deep, the 1.5 cm depth, right? Now, sometimes we have mistakes. We will put a bit lesser, okay? So by the time you turn on the steam one, let's say you have very shallow depth of steam tip. So when you turn on steam one, it immediately chirps or it immediately goes into the aeration. You can't control it. So immediately you have to move up the pitcher, right? Move up the pitcher. So you prevent it to further chirping. So that also make it to assure the milk getting more silky and polished, glossier milk. So we do not have the guideline because the sound of it, you have to recognize the sound of it. There are unlimited variants of chirping sound. So it's very hard to explain like this.
I do have a guideline, and so because I find so many things difficult in coffee, I tend to measure and then stick with things that measure. So our jugs have measurement lines in them, and I always do a double espresso, so typically 32 to 36 grams out. I pour 150 mils of milk in here, and when I'm aerating, I aerate until it goes to about there, and it's starting to crawl up, and I know that if it's getting close to coming out of the jug, it's too much aeration, and if it's nowhere near the top of the jug, it's not enough. So and I always use the same size cup every single time. So essentially simplify my life right? Make the same coffee every day, every time for years. So always 150 mils, double shot, same size cup, and then slowly get better at it. And I don't vary anything until I achieve mastery, which is yet to happen. So still using these cups. I'm gonna take the camera that's right here. I'm gonna show you the shot, because this is also the best practices shot. And what I want to show you is I ground using the portafilter stand here, so it was probably not that even. And the whole point of the best practices is to use all the best practices we have learned in 5 years to lower the instance of channeling. So what we should see, I expect, is when the water comes out the bottom, it's not going to be that even. It's going to be either donutty or on one side, but over a few seconds, it should move over, and when the shot actually starts, it should have repaired the problems. And that's something that default doesn't do, because default doesn't have that long pre-infusion and some other things too. There's a longer pressurized pre-infusion, a slower pressure ramp up, a flow extraction, a bunch of complicated stuff that I've had to figure out, so you don't have to. So here comes this on a lock.
Let's see whether we have any improvement, John.
The good thing is last week was terrible, so it's hard to do worse.
Okay, cool.
All right, and there we go. I am gonna pin. Ta-da! It's not entirely in focus, but it's life. Okay, so it's got a fast pre-infusion, and we should see it flesh out fairly quickly. Okay, so you saw on the right-hand side, it came out, and you're seeing more on the right-hand side. And now it's starting to flesh out. The center's still a little bit dry, right? And the right's a little bit light colored. And now, as the water comes out, it's much more even. I would say it was a little late to make the center, but nonetheless, it's turned out to be a nice, even, there's even brown all over the place. Okay? So that's what the shot looks like in the end. It's a pretty shot. The shot time was 31 seconds, and you can't see that. But what's interesting is with default, to get to the same weight took 27 seconds. So the same shot, just with the extra 4 seconds, just getting a little bit more even, less channeling, and just a better tasting espresso. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put 150 mils in here. Okay. I don't have someone holding the camera. I think Bugs was coming over to assist, actually. I took a break from accounting. Okay, so I'm going to show you this because it's probably helpful. So I've moved it, but you can see there's measurement lines, okay? And
Yep.
So have I actually put, yeah, so if I set it down, you can see it's a little bit lower. Okay, so now let's try to have latte art cam. Okay, and this time I'm going to endeavor not to forget to use the second jug, but I am going to realize, shoot, my thermometer, see if I've got one here. My thermometer is by my desk, but I have another thermometer, so, okay. So here we are. Oh, that's brand new, okay. So that's got a piece of plastic on the end. Okay, it is set to 60. Okay, and let's just see. Yeah, that is, you really can't see anything. Great.
Really try your best, John.
Dear. Let's see. That's better, he said. hoping this isn't one of those Zoom moments where the laptop falls on the ground. And there goes $2,000 worth of Apple technology. All right. Let's see if that works. Yeah, sort of. You'll be able to see the latte art at least. Okay, so in half, and then I'm at quarter. Okay, and I'm gonna let it start swirling, and then I start chirping. And there's my chirping sound. You can't see it. You can't see it swirling, but now I find I'm letting it chirp more. Now I'm done chirping, and I'm just letting it swirl. And you can kind of see.
I think you're doing pretty well, John.
Okay. But the swirl, see how even it is here? It's not leaping around. That to me was kind of the secret to making good foam, was to get a not too violent action. Okay, so
pretty good.
So to me that's as good as it gets. There's not a single large bubble
nice.
In there, right? It's super
Very nice.
silky. There's kind of nothing wrong, which is
That's very nice, John.
progress.
In compared to your older videos.
So now I'm gonna remember to pour in here, okay? And I'm pouring just like I'm pouring right over my laptop. How stupid is that? All right. Okay, so here I am with that cup there, okay? And I'm gonna lean so I can have a little bit of the coffee, and then I'm just gonna pour in, and I'm gonna mix it all around, okay? And then, okay? So, not pouring the coffee on the keyboard. There's just so much wrong with this Zoom call.
Well, I think it's very glossy right now, the way you steam. The way you brought the milk, it's very glossy right now.
So I'm happy. I mean, for me, I'm doing this to drink, right? So I don't see any large bubbles. I've got some nice lines here. And really what made this easy was moving to the large jug. When I made this same artwork on the smaller jug, I had a much narrower, very thin line piece of art, because I'm not especially good. I do still have trouble getting it centered this way, but
yeah.
It's not.
Okay, to tackle that, let's say if you're not pouring it symmetrical, your end result, let's say, is not symmetrical enough. You think it's not, whatever reason it is, your heart shape could be pointing the other way, could be pointing this way, or could be pointing a little bit slightly off. Now, it's the way we hold the cup, number one, because we always judge the symmetrical line based on the ear on the right hand or left hand, whatever it is, you're right-handed or left-handed. So that's number one. You base on the way you hold the cup. So to me, when I pour a classic pattern, should hold the cup where the ear is pointing at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
It means like this. Yeah.
Okay.
So number two is the way you hold the pitcher. Now, trying to demonstrate. Now, if you pour this way, that is symmetrical. That means I'm pouring this way. That means I'm pointing 6 o'clock, and this tip is pointing from 3 to 9. Yeah? Nicely done. So let's say if not, let's say I hold it like this way. Let's say I hold this way, right? This way. Today I'm not feeling well. My mood, I don't care. I just hold this way. So with this way, from top view, I'm trying to pull this way, lift up and cut through this way. So the whole pattern points that way. For example, the heart shape, the tail is pointing this way. So that makes a not symmetrical. It's okay. It's okay. It's fine. If you want to hold it this way with the ear, it's fine. It's up to you. But for me, I like to hold it this way with my fingertip. It's right up to you. So as long as you feel comfortable, as long as you feel that it's nice to hold. For my I always do not hold the way that my finger is touching the drinking lid, like this. I don't pour that way, okay? So I always pour by holding fingertip when nobody's drinking this line over here. Everyone's drinking this line, but try to pour a lower position like this. It's really up to you. You can pour with holding this way as well. Up to you, as long as it works. Fine. So Alan is ready to show his demonstration. John, you probably want to pin it to him. Let's see what you have, Alan.
Can you see that okay?
Okay, Alan, let's try, Alan. Let's try what you can pour. No problem, yeah.
So this is oat milk, so it's a bit...
Oat milk? Okay, cool. Knock off the bubbles and try to pour whatever you can.
Into the bigger thing would make it, I think, easier to get rid of all the little bubbles. And then without trying to do this and be seen, as you can see.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks, Alan. Do you like your coffee this way? I'm not talking about latte. Do you like coffee this way?
Sorry, what was the question?
Do you like the coffee? Do you like the coffee poured that way? Do you like the texture of it?
Yes.
You like the texture of it? You're okay with the bubbles on top?
Well, I prefer no bubbles on top, but
okay. Okay. Let me try to explain to you.
I find that the oat milk.
Nothing wrong, so long that you like it that way. So long the taste is nice. So let me explain to you, Alan. If you pay attention to the video right now, I'm about to explain. So what I saw just now, let's assume this is the steam tip.
Yep.
Okay. So what I saw just now, I think from the top view, you do everything correctly. You did everything correctly. But on the side view, so on the top view, you did like this, right in the center. Okay, yep. Right in the center, and then you move slightly that way, right? Is that correct, Alan?
Yes.
All right, cool. Now, the side view of it, I believe, the reason why I take this, right, is easier for me to show you all. So it's meant for this webinar only. So on the side view, I believe you move down, submerge the steam one a little bit too deep.
Okay.
Am I correct?
It's possible, yes.
Or it almost goes underneath.
I was noticing today when you in your demonstrations that you don't seem to be submerging the steam one very far, and I think I probably do submerge it a bit too far.
Okay. So the correct way to put the steam tip, let's say this is the milk, the volume, right?
Yep.
The correct way is underneath the surface around 1.5 cm.
Okay.
Now, do you have a pen, Alan?
Yes.
Have you watched the previous webinar?
Yes.
Okay. Let me repeat this for whoever did not. Okay. Now, when we put down 1.5 cm, and then we turn on the steam. And then we move the pitcher down for foam. Now, you move the pitcher down for foam just only 2 mm. Barely can see it. Can't see it from whoever, your wife or your girlfriend, your daughter, whoever stands beside you, you can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
But you can feel it yourself. So put down in, the first thing, turn on steam 1, and then pitcher down for foam. Only 1 to 2 mm until you can hear the chirping sound. Okay? When it's done, you feel like today you want to do cappuccino. If you want to do cafe latte, cappuccino, obviously, you need more chirps. Latte, you need lesser chirp. Flat white, you need much lesser, a little bit chirp. All right? Yep. So when move down for chirping, so that means pitcher down for foam. Pitcher down for foam. Now, second part, the swirl. Pitcher up for swirl. So remember this magical phrase, pitcher down for foam, pitcher up for swirl. Okay?
Yes.
Are you with me, Jalen?
Yep.
Okay, I noticed there are a lot of rough bubbles during the swirl part. Yeah, when we're doing it.
Yep.
There are a lot of rough bubbles on top. So that means you pitcher up way much more deeper than it's supposed to be.
Okay.
That way, let's say you point it over here. Let's say point over here, this deep. That means you're swirling the lower part, but the top part, you got to ignore. You ignore the top part, it doesn't swirl, so that's why the foam, the rough bubble still stays on top until the end.
Okay.
So you have to pitcher, first of all, turn on the steam, pitcher down for foam. You create the chirping sound. When it's done, pitcher up for swirl. Just a little bit, just little bit moving up 2 mm as well is sufficient enough to silence the chirp. Now, third thing you need to remember this, Alan. From the top view, you need to see the swirl. Now, how do I describe the swirl? Just like your toilet flush. Just like your toilet flush. If there's not swirling like a toilet flush, there's no vortex, there's no swirlpool, there's no whirlpool, that means something's wrong. That means you submerged too deep. There's no whirlpool anymore. There's no more toilet flush.
Yeah.
So that's why you need to down for foam, for chirping, up for swirl, just a little bit only, sufficient enough to swirl the whole milk in your pitcher.
Okay.
You understand that?
Excellent. Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay. Right. I hope that you understand and solve your problem in the near future.
Yes, I think the various tips and certainly pouring into the bigger jug makes a huge difference in that it gets rid of things and it just makes it easier to pour that into the cup.
Now, it's very easy. Now, do you practice, how many cups of coffee do you drink a day, Alan? Let me ask you. 2, max out, right? So you have 2 chances a day.
Yeah, but sometimes I make for other people as well. So I may make 3 or 4 sometimes.
Occasionally,
yeah.
I would say, not every day.
Yeah,
so
not every day.
Since you have a machine at home, so what you can do, if you want to have, you need to make spare time for latte art. Spare time. Now, since you're not really familiar of milk steaming, okay? So what you need to do, you need to practice more milk steaming.
Yeah.
So there are 3 items you need, Alan.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have dishwasher soap liquid?
Yep.
Do you have ice cubes in your refrigerator?
Yes.
Do you have water supply?
Yes.
Okay, what you need is these 3 items. Put in water, few cubes of ice, and 1 drop of soap. and practice milk steaming only. All right,
Okay.
you can do that all day. But remember this, once you're done, please remember to pour in some tap water and just steam out the soap inside the steam one.
Yep.
What you need to have is soap, ice cubes, and water in the picture to practice on milk steaming, but you can't make latte art with that.
Okay. Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thanks.
So I hope that that helps you, Alan. Cool.
Yes.
Need more practice,
Very
all
much.
right? Cool.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Have a nice day, Alan.
You too.
All right.
Anyone else?
Do we have more questions? Let me check.
Anyone else want to do a live demo of
Want to demonstrate?
your distilling? Try not to pour latte art over your laptop like I did.
John, I think you need to wipe the camera lens.
Probably. I'm trying to go
with
for that.
with cleaning cloth. You tried already?
No, I'm trying. I'm going for that blurry look so I look younger. All right. Well, it has been 2 hours, and I'm aware that you might actually want to have dinner or a life. So thank you for hosting this again, Dennis.
No problem.
And
pleasure to do so.
I think we'll be back in this time zone in about a month. So those of you who watch this, please practice and come back in a month and come back with your questions, your challenges, and we'll see what we can do to help. And do check out Dennis's book, because his latte arts book is now available to decent customers. There's no cost. It's part of being part of the Decent family, and it's decentspresso.com/guide. Takes you right to it, and that's just published a half hour ago. And it's a great book. It's what brought me to Dennis. And it's, if you're looking for step-by-step on learning, like you're just not there yet, the book is the thing to start with, because it really goes through every single step, and whereas this was kind of more advanced. All right?
Okay.
Thanks,
cool.
everyone.
I hope that we will cover other topics in near future.
I'm sure. All right.
All right, cool. Thanks, John.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.